on Rock this entire time. And that information, once it gets out, once Kanan finds out the truth about who actually killed the people he loved, is going to set off a chain reaction of violence that nobody in Queens is going to be able to stop. And the person who is going to make sure that information reaches Kanan at exactly the right moment, in exactly the right way, to cause maximum damage is none other than Breeze, because that is what makes Breeze so terrifying as a character. He does not need to get his own hands dirty all the time. He just needs to make sure that the right people have the right information at the right moment, and then he steps back and watches everything explode exactly the way he planned it. Snaps and Pop think they are safe. They think that secret is buried. They have no idea that the most dangerous young man in Queens already knows exactly what they did and is simply waiting for the perfect moment to use that knowledge as a weapon. And when that moment comes, when Kanan finds out the truth about Fame and Crystal, the violence that follows is going to be swift and total and completely without mercy. But here is the question that I cannot get out of my head when I think about everything that is coming for these characters in Season 5. Here's the thing that keeps me up at night when I think about how this final season is going to end. We know where Kanan ends up. We know the man he becomes. We know the world he inhabits in power. But what we do not yet know is the specific moment, the specific loss, the specific betrayal that finally kills the last piece of humanity inside of him completely. And I think Season 5 is going to show us that moment in a way that is so raw and so real and so painful that it will genuinely change the way you watch the original Power series forever. So tell me this, if losing Rock, losing Jukebox, losing Marvin, losing everything he ever had is what finally turns Kanan into the monster we know he becomes, which one of those losses do you think is going to hurt him the most? And which one of those losses is going to be the one that he never, ever recovers from? I need you to stop for a second and really think about something, like, because I feel like most people watching Raising Kanan have been so focused on Kanan, on Rock, on Jukebox, and Marvin, and all of the emotional family drama that sits at the center of this show, that they have completely underestimated the character who is actually going to define this final season more than anyone else. The character who is quietly, methodically, and with absolute precision pulling every single string in Queens right now, and that character is Breeze, because what this trailer and this first look material have made undeniably clear is that Breeze is not just a supporting player in Kanan's story anymore. Breeze is the architect. Breeze is the one drawing the blueprint, and everyone else in Queens, whether they know it or not, is simply living inside a plan that Breeze has already designed from beginning to end. Now, I want to be very specific about why Breeze is so different from every other Power player we have seen in the Power universe up to this point. Because the Power universe has given us incredible villains and incredible strategists before. We have seen Ghost operate at an extraordinary level of intelligence and calculation. We have seen Tommy operate with a kind of fearless brutality that made him nearly impossible to stop. We have seen characters like Lobos and Dre and Tasha all play the game at very high levels in their own ways. But Breeze is different from all of them. And the reason Breeze is different is because of his age. Because Breeze is doing things at this point in his life, thinking at this level, planning at this depth, while he is still essentially a teenager. And that combination of youth and genius and absolute ruthlessness is something the Power universe has genuinely never shown us before. Think about what we already know about Breeze from everything the show has established. Think about the way he carries himself, the way he speaks, the way he listens more than he talks and watches more than he acts. There is nothing accidental about Breeze. Every word he says is chosen carefully. Every move he makes has already been thought through 3 steps in advance. And what makes him truly terrifying is that he does all of this while maintaining this incredibly cool and almost relaxed exterior that makes people underestimate him constantly. People look at Breeze and they see a young man. They see someone who has not yet proven himself fully. They see someone who can still be managed or controlled or used. And every single one of those people is making the last mistake they will ever make. because Breeze has already seen them coming, Breeze has already accounted for them, and Breeze has already decided exactly what role they are going to play in the story he is writing for himself. The chess imagery we saw in the trailer was not subtle, and it was not accidental, because chess is exactly the right metaphor for how Breeze operates. In chess, the most dangerous player is not the one who reacts to what is happening on the board right now. The most dangerous player is the one who is already thinking about what the board is going to look like 15 moves from now. The one who is willing to sacrifice pieces strategically, not because those pieces do not matter, but because losing them now creates an advantage that pays off later in a way that the opponent never saw coming. And that is precisely how Breeze thinks about the people around him. Everyone in his world is a piece on his board, and Season 5 is the game where he finally plays his endgame. Let us talk specifically about how Breeze is going to use Kanan in this final season, because the relationship between Breeze and Kanan is genuinely one of the most fascinating dynamics in the entire show. On the surface, it looks like a friendship. It looks like a partnership between two young men who respect each other and who are building something together. And there is real truth to that. Breeze does genuinely value Kanan in a way that goes beyond pure calculation. Kanan is not just a tool to Breeze the way other people are tools. There is something real between them. But here's the thing that you always have to remember when thinking about Breeze: even the relationships that are real to him, even the connections that genuinely matter to him, he still cannot help but think about them strategically. He still cannot help but see the angles and the advantages and the ways those relationships can be positioned to serve his larger vision. And his relationship with Kanan is absolutely no exception to that rule. What Breeze understands about Kanan that nobody else fully grasps is that Kanan's rage and Kanan's pain are not weaknesses. They are weapons. The fact that Kanan is hurting right now, the fact that he is angry and betrayed and looking for something to direct all of that emotion toward, that makes him incredibly powerful and incredibly useful in the right hands. And Breeze has exactly the right hands, because Breeze knows how to take Kanan's emotional state and channel it in directions that serve the plan. He knows how to use Kanan's hatred of Rock, his desire for revenge against Snaps and Pop, his competitive nature, his pride, and his loyalty, all as levers that can be pulled at exactly the right moment to produce exactly the right result. Kanan thinks he and Breeze are building something together as equals, and in some ways they are. But Breeze is always the one deciding which direction they are building in. Now let us get into the specific moves I think Breeze is going to make in Season 5, because this is where it gets really interesting. The first and most important move Breeze needs to make is eliminating Rock. Not necessarily with his own hands, not necessarily in a direct and obvious way, but Rock represents the single biggest obstacle to everything Breeze wants to build in Queens. As long as Rock is alive and operating, there is always the possibility that she finds a way back. There is always the possibility that she reasserts her authority, repairs some of her relationships, and reclaims some of the ground she has lost. Rock is too smart and too experienced and too deeply embedded in the fabric of Queens for Breeze to ever feel completely secure while she is still breathing. So Rock has to go. And the beautiful thing about how Breeze is going to engineer that outcome is that he is barely going to have to do anything himself. He just has to make sure Kanan and Unique are pointed in the right direction, and then let their own rage and their own desire for revenge do all the heavy lifting for him. The second major move Breeze needs to make is dealing with Snaps and Pop. And this is where his genius really shows itself, because Snaps and Pop are not just obstacles to be removed. They are information. They are a story that can be told at exactly the right moment to cause exactly the right amount of damage. Breeze knows what they did. Breeze knows they killed Fame and Crystal. And instead of using that information immediately, instead of going straight to Kanan with it the moment he found out, Breeze has been holding on to it, waiting, letting it mature like a weapon that gets more powerful the longer you wait to use it. And when he finally does bring that information to Kanan, when he finally sits down and tells Kanan the truth about who really murdered the people he loved, the explosion that follows is going to be so total and so devastating that Snaps and Pop will not even see it coming until it is already too late. But here is the layer of Breeze's plan that I think is the most brilliant and the most cold-blooded at the same time. Because eliminating Rock and Snaps and Pop and clearing the board of all the people who currently stand in the way is only the first half of what Breeze needs to accomplish in Season 5. The second half is dealing with Unique, because Unique is going to be useful for a while. Unique's desire for revenge against Rock makes him a perfect temporary ally. His resources and his street connections make him valuable in the short term. But Unique is never going to be content with a supporting role. Unique has always seen himself as a king, and there is only room for one king in the queens that Breeze is building, which means the moment Unique has served his purpose, the moment Rock is gone and the dust has settled and the new order is being established, Breeze is going to turn his attention to Unique. And that transition, that moment when Unique realizes that the alliance he thought was going to elevate him has actually been a slow and perfectly designed trap all along, is going to be one of the most satisfying and terrifying reveals of the entire season. I also want to talk about something that the trailer hinted at very strongly, which is the way Breeze relates to violence personally. Because there is this misconception about strategic masterminds in shows like this that they are somehow above violence, that they are too smart for it or too calculated to engage in it directly. But Breeze is not like that. Breeze is perfectly capable of violence when it serves the plan. He is perfectly capable of doing what needs to be done with his own hands when the situation calls for it. And what makes that so dangerous is that when Breeze does get violent, it is never impulsive, it is never emotional. It is always a decision that has been made rationally and deliberately and with full awareness of what it means and what it will cost. And that kind of cold, chosen violence is so much more frightening than anything driven by anger or passion, because you cannot predict it the way you can predict emotional violence. You cannot see it coming the way you can see a hot-headed person about to snap. Breeze's violence arrives quietly and completely without warning, and by the time you realize what is happening, it is already done. There is also the question of what Breeze actually wants when everything is said and done. What is the end game for this young man? What does he actually see when he imagines the future he is trying to build? Because great villains and great strategists always have a vision. They are never just destroying for the sake of destroying. They are always clearing the ground for something they want to build in its place. And what Breeze wants is something very specific and very clear, even if it has never been stated explicitly in the show. Breeze wants to be the most powerful man in New York. Not just in Queens, not just in one neighborhood or one corner of the drug trade. He wants everything. He wants the kind of power and influence and control that nobody in the world of this show has ever fully achieved. And he has the intelligence and the patience and the absolute lack of sentimentality needed to actually get there, which is what makes him so extraordinary and so terrifying as a character. And then there is the relationship between Breeze and Ghost, because this is something that Season 5 absolutely has to address given where the Power universe is heading. We know from the original Power that Ghost is the one who eventually kills Breeze. We know that Breeze's story ends at Ghost's hands. And the dramatic irony of that, the fact that we are about to watch Breeze at the absolute peak of his power and his brilliance, knowing that a young kid named Ghost is eventually going to be the one who brings him down, adds this incredible layer of tragedy to everything Breeze does in Season 5. Because every brilliant move he makes, every perfect plan he executes, every obstacle he removes, and every piece of territory he claims is ultimately just building toward a throne that someone else is going to take from him. And he does not even know it yet. He cannot even imagine it yet, because Ghost has not arrived yet. Ghost is still becoming, but when he does arrive, when those two worlds finally collide, everything is going to change in ways that even Breeze could not have planned for. So here is what I need you to sit with as we move forward. Breeze is not just the most dangerous mind Queens has ever seen. Breeze is the reason everything in the Power universe happens the way it happens. He is the domino that sets all the other dominoes falling. Without Breeze, there is no Kanan the way we know him. Without Breeze, there is no power vacuum that Ghost eventually steps into. Without Breeze, the entire architecture of the criminal world that the original Power series Here's something I need you to understand before we go any further. Final seasons of great shows do not just kill characters, they kill ideas, they kill hopes, they kill the versions of the future that we spent years believing in and rooting for. And what Raising Kanan Season 5 is setting up is not just a series of deaths and betrayals and violent confrontations. It is the systematic destruction of every single possibility of a different outcome for these characters. It is the closing of every door that was ever left even slightly open. And by the time this final season reaches its last episode, every death we witness is going to feel less like a plot event and more like a verdict. A final judgment on what this world does to the people who live inside it. And I promise you that verdict is going to be absolutely devastating. Let us start with the death that I believe is going to hit hardest and earliest in the season. Because every final season needs a moment in its opening episodes that immediately signals to the audience that the rules have changed, that nobody is safe, that the show is operating without a net now and is willing to go places it has never gone before. And I think that moment in Season 5 is going to be the death of Pop. Because Pop has always existed in this interesting space in the show where she is simultaneously deeply involved in the darkness of this world, and yet somehow still manages to feel like someone who represents a kind of warmth and groundedness that most of the other characters have long since lost. She is Snaps and Pop. She is part of that unit that has been a constant presence throughout the series. And losing her first before Snaps, before anyone else in that circle, is going to send a shockwave through the entire remaining cast that changes the energy of everything that follows. Think about what Pop's death means specifically for Jukebox, because Jukebox loves Pop in a way that is very pure and very real. Pop has been one of the few consistent sources of genuine warmth in Jukebox's life. One of the few people who has always shown up for her without conditions or complications or hidden agendas. And when Pop is gone, when that source of warmth is suddenly and violently removed, something shifts in Jukebox that cannot be shifted back. It is not just grief, it is the beginning of a fundamental reorganization of how Jukebox sees the world and what she believes is possible within it. And that reorganization is going to express itself in ways that are going to make even the most hardened viewers deeply uncomfortable. Because Jukebox grieving is not Jukebox crying and withdrawing. Jukebox grieving is Jukebox deciding that the world deserves everything she is about to do to it. Now let us talk about Snaps, because Snaps losing Pop is its own separate catastrophe with its own separate consequences. These two characters have always functioned as a unit. Their partnership has been one of the most consistent and reliable dynamics in the entire show, and when you remove one half of that unit, what you are left with is not just a grieving individual. You are left with someone who is fundamentally disoriented, someone who no longer knows how to navigate the world without the person who has always been beside them. And a disoriented Snaps is a dangerous Snaps. Not dangerous in the strategic and calculated way that Breeze is dangerous. Dangerous in the unpredictable and emotional way that gets people killed in this world. Because Snaps without Pop is going to start making decisions driven entirely by grief and rage and the desperate need to make someone pay for what happened. And those kinds of decisions never end well. They never lead somewhere good. They always lead straight into exactly the trap that the people who want you dead have already set for you. And here's the thing about Snaps and Pop that the show has been building toward for a long time now. The secret they are carrying, the truth about Fame and Crystal, that secret is a ticking clock, and Season 5 is the season when that clock finally runs out. Because Breeze is going to make sure Kanan finds out the truth. We already established that. But what I want to focus on now is the specific way in which Kanan receiving that information is going to interact with everything else that is happening simultaneously in the season. Because the timing of when Breeze reveals the truth about Snaps and Pop is not going to be random. It is going to be perfectly calibrated to arrive at the exact moment when Kanan is already at his most volatile, his most raw, his most ready to act without thinking and without mercy. And that moment is going to come right after Kanan has already absorbed one devastating loss too many. right after the grief and the rage have already built past the point where any part of his rational mind can pump the brakes. And in that state, armed with the truth about who actually killed Fame and Crystal, Kanan is going to be